Good morning and welcome back to Morning Bus. I'm Alex, and as always, I'm here with Jordan. Yesterday we promised we'd dive into something that's been absolutely fascinating me lately: why some people become completely obsessed with collecting vintage items while others just don't get the appeal at all. Jordan, I have to admit, I fall squarely into that second category sometimes.
Yeah, that's really interesting, Alex, because this is one of those topics where the psychology gets surprisingly complex. I've been looking into the research on this, and it turns out your relationship with vintage items and antiques reveals quite a bit about how your brain processes both nostalgia and value. What's your experience been like with vintage collecting?
Honestly, I'll walk through an antique store and think this is just old furniture that someone didn't want anymore. But then I have friends who will spend hours hunting for the perfect 1960s ceramic vase or vintage band t shirt. They get this look in their eyes like they found buried treasure, and I'm standing there completely mystified.
That treasure hunting feeling is actually key to understanding the psychology here. Research shows that vintage collectors often experience what psychologists call acquisition euphoria. It's a genuine neurochemical high when they find something rare or meaningful. But here's what's fascinating. It's not really about the object itself. It's about the stories and connections these items represent.
Wait, so it's more about the narrative than the actual thing? That's starting to make more sense to me. I was talking to my neighbor last week who collects vintage cameras, and she spent 20 minutes telling me about this 1950s Leica she found and the photographer who might have used it during the Korean War.
Exactly. You've hit on something crucial there. For many collectors, vintage items serve as tangible links to historical moments or cultural memories they want to connect with. From a psychological perspective, this often stems from what researchers call nostalgia orientation. Numerous studies have been done to find general idealistic of particular aspects of events. So, for example, some people are naturally drawn to idealized versions of the past, even periods they never personally experienced.
But why do some people have that nostalgia orientation while others, like me, are more focused on what's new and upcoming? Is it just personality, or is there something deeper going on?
It's actually a combination of factors. Genetics play a role in how we process sentimental attachment, but life experiences matter too. People who grew up with family stories, heirlooms, or who experienced significant changes early in life often develop stronger connections to objects that represent stability or continuity. On the flip side, people who've moved frequently or embrace change might be more oriented toward the future than the past.
That's so interesting because I moved around a lot growing up and I definitely leaned toward what's next rather than what was. But there's got to be more to it than just personal history, right? I mean, some people become absolutely obsessed with collecting, like it takes over their entire living space.
You're absolutely right to point that out. When collecting becomes compulsive, we're often looking at different psychological mechanisms entirely. For some people, vintage items provide a sense of control and accomplishment that might be missing in other areas of their lives. The hunt for rare pieces activates the same reward pathways as gambling, which explains why some collectors describe it as addictive.
Wow, I never thought about the gambling connection. That actually explains why my friend gets so excited about estate sales and auctions. She's always talking about the thrill of the hunt and getting deals on pieces that might be worth more than what she paid.
That's a perfect example of how the potential for financial gain can amplify the psychological rewards. But here's something really intriguing from recent studies. People who collect vintage items often score higher on measures of environmental consciousness and sustainability awareness. They're drawn to the idea of giving old objects new life rather than contributing to waste.
Oh, that makes total sense. So, for some people, vintage collecting isn't just about nostalgia or treasure hunting, it's also about values and making more conscious choices about consumption. I can definitely relate to that aspect, even if I'm not personally drawn to antiques.
Exactly. And this is where it gets really interesting for understanding yourself. Your relationship with vintage items, whether you're drawn to them or not, often reflects broader patterns in how you process value, meaning, and time. Some people find meaning in preserving and connecting with the past, while others find it in creating and moving toward the future.
I love that perspective because it makes both approaches totally valid. Whether you're someone who sees beauty in a weathered vintage leather jacket with decades of history, or someone like me who gets excited about the latest sustainable fashion innovations, we're both looking for meaning and connection, just in different directions.
That's beautifully put, Alex. And the research suggests that neither approach is inherently better or worse. What matters is understanding what drives your own relationship with objects and possessions, because that self-awareness can help you make more intentional choices about what you bring into your life and why.
This has been such an enlightening conversation. I feel like I understand my antique loving friends so much better now, and I also have a clearer sense of why I'm wired differently. Before we wrap up, what's one practical takeaway for our listeners?
I'd say pay attention to what draws you to certain objects or possessions and ask yourself what need they're meeting, whether it's connection to history, aesthetic beauty, potential value, or environmental consciousness. Understanding your motivations can help you make more purposeful decisions about what deserves space in your life.
Perfect advice. Well, tomorrow we're going to explore something completely different but equally fascinating: why some people can fall asleep anywhere, anytime, while others need perfect conditions and still struggle with insomnia. We'll dive into the science of sleep flexibility and what it reveals about your nervous system. Until then, this has been Morning Buzz. Have a fantastic Monday, everyone.